Hello, all. Welcome back to another episode of The Works. I'm Jim.
I'm Diane.
You probably noticed we took a little break. Probably thinking, where'd they go? I was thinking, where'd they go?
Yeah.
Did some, there's an did some family stuff. See, when you get out of practice, bad habits happen. Right?
Correct.
Okay. So we took a little break, did some family stuff.
Did a vacation, yeah.
Did a little car trip. So we want to talk about travel kind of as our topic of the day. But before we get that, I'm thinking of introducing a new game, but before I spill the beans on that, or spill the tea, that's what we say in the South, right?
Yes.
Spill the tea. Notice that from a podcast place where you get your podcasts, right? Still learning the whole industry, and by the industry I do mean the business.
The business.
But we have Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio. I'm still not understanding.
And Pandora.
And Pandora. And from a statistical perspective, since we start and post the podcast on Spotify,
that's where we park.
That's the main. Yeah. I guess that explains why statistics for Spotify things, listens, where you're at. I like to talk about where we've been listened to from.
Mm-hmm.
Weird sentence, but and up until, as a matter of fact, over this little break that we had.
Yeah, we picked up listeners in Vietnam.
Many countries that, as a matter of fact, and I guess where I was going with this is those stats from the other platforms seem to now be overtaking Spotify as far as pure
numbers.
So to your point, we've picked up. So I learned, or at least I'm not sure about this one. Back in school, we learned that the 7 continents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was it 7, 8?
Yeah, 7.
But the one that I always, Australia, its own continent, right? I saw it referred to as Oceania.
Oh. On
one of these other platforms. So we picked up an Oceania listener, not an Australia listener, which we had already had from Spotify. Not to confuse it, but to your point, picked up what? Egypt, Mexico, Nicaragua, Uzbekistan. Isn't that where Borat is from?
Right. It was, yeah. Borat.
You're not going to get this.
With
la. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say something, decided not to.
Well, then
out of practice here.
Well, sure. What was it? It's probably going to be funny now that, key to good comedy, right?
Timing.
Poland. I think that one was by accident. They were trying to watch TV.
Hey, now.
That's classic. Pakistan, Brazil, Panama. Ecuador. Lebanon, or Lebanon. Who's on Lebanon? Ukraine, Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, Ethiopia. Yeah, I mean, Iran. Maybe one of our fighting forces decided to turn it on while they're bombing the crap out of Iran. Who knows? That's awesome.
We'll keep you company no matter what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah.
We can make you giggle.
Oman, Venezuela, and Vietnam. And I saved Vietnam for the last. Well, so in Vietnam, there are 3 cities, Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh, and I think the only reason I know how to pronounce those is from MASH.
Right.
The other one is, and I kid you not, it's Tin Tang Hoa. Or at least, again, phonetically, I'm trying to put T-I-H-N. Well, which reminded me, and this is what...
lady parts?
Ting Tang Hoa?
Yeah. That's not...
Maybe, those are lady parts. But what that reminded me of was that sad situation where there was a plane wreck and there was a bunch of newscasters that
that
were
was
reading
funny.
names that were made up names, but this was the classic, like an anchorman,
You read what's on the teleprompter.
whatever's on the teleprompter he read. And apparently that is true in life. So these anchors, when there was an Asiani airline
Yeah.
crashed, and they started to talk about the crew, and in particular, those that didn't survive were Captain Sum Ting Rong,
Ding bang ow.
Bang Ding Ow was
Bang,
technically the way, yes, and We Too Row was the other one, right?
That's awful.
It is, but so that reminded me, and maybe a little spin on the idea of, we've come up with the phrase recently, we all use going down a rabbit hole, right?
Right.
When you're on the internet. So I'd like to combine what I call the human rabbit hole and the Kevin Bacon game.
Oh.
So, for example, hearing those made up names, We Too Row, makes me think of Fuck You and Fuck Me.
Oh, yeah. Austin
From what?
Powers.
Right. From Austin Powers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like the Kevin Bacon game, my idea is to see if you can take this, seven layers from what you start. So I guess technically, Fuck You and Fuck Me, I think, would be 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then Wanna Fuck?
Yeah.
That's from Broad City.
Yeah.
And then I got lost in my own game, looking up stuff for the
Is
topic.
that why you were giggling?
I just that's a clever idea. We just need maybe to set up some parameters and maybe devote an entire episode to the human rabbit hole / Kevin Bacon game.
Yeah.
So, Holy Fook was another one on the plane, was it not?
I think so.
So maybe that could be Holy Fook or We Too Row. Fook You, Fook Me, Wanna Fook, and yeah. I guess I'm just thinking of it now. The Fockers.
Yeah.
Right, because that's not really saying, again, here is I'm not really saying the word, it was implied.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
Of course, it's, the Fockers, Meet the Fockers,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a new one coming out.
Yeah.
And do you remember what that's called? It has Ariana Grande in it.
Oh.
Remember? We saw that.
Yes, I don't remember what it was called.
Yeah. So we'll have to work on that. But so talking about
vacation.
Yes. And recently we did some family stuff, and part of that was taking a trip by car.
Mm-hmm.
We drove North Carolina to Ohio.
The roads.
Well, so that's my format, or at least the construct of the conversation. What are the best and worst parts of travel? Right. So via car, to your point, and then I got down the rabbit hole of, when you go through West Virginia, there's 2 mountains or tunnels that go under the mountain or through the mountain. Just amazed that, they're both pretty long.
Yeah, I was surprised.
So I did a little looky-loo on how many tunnels we have here in the United States compared to the rest of the world. And we use tunnels much differently, generally, than all the other countries do. Tunnels are means of transportation of things, water, aqueducts, things like that in other countries. But here, most of the tunnels are created for car
Vehicles,
travel.
yeah.
Vehicle travel, train included, but car travel. And going down that rabbit hole, discovered that there are simple tunnels and complicated, complex tunnels.
Okay.
And of course, then I saw that and I go, what the hell is a complex tunnel? Well, it
you
involves
go around and around and up and down, and as opposed to straight.
No, it's the other systems that support the tunnel, whether it's ventilation, lights, electrical things that makes it more, as opposed to what I still think is complicated is the concept of drilling through a frickin' mountain. But anyway, these 2 on the turnpike in West Virginia, the 2 tunnels you go through 5 years is what it took them to do it. And it wasn't, they didn't start this until 72, which again, I guess is amazing to me. But then stepping back, analytically thinking, and the reason that they, proposed this in the 70s to do it, shortened the trip, the time between the two cities that are on each side of
conserve gas if you don't have to go around a mountain.
But then I beg the question: is the two cities that are on either end of these tunnels in West Virginia? I don't know. Again, other than saving the 20 minutes of drive time, why is it so important? But of course, they built the interstate then.
Right.
That's 77, right, going up, and then we did stop at the Mothman place again.
That was fun.
I don't know how many folks, and that should have been on our conspiracy thing, Mothman.
Oh yeah, I forgot
so yeah, we had a
about that.
whole conversation around, urban
legends,
myths,
conspiracy theories.
and the Mothman was again something that, and Ohio, I had no idea. Ohio equally is probably the number one state for Bigfoot sightings. We heard
I had
that
no
when
idea.
we heard that when we were up there.
Huh.
And maybe it's because Mothman and Bigfoot are somewhat related, or possibly, unless Mothman, sheds its wings or
Maybe
displays
they're
its
an
wings, maybe they're.
alternative, relationship. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, this is the year
Yeah.
2026. Maybe Mothman decided he wanted to be Bigfoot. Maybe
Yeah.
that, because Mothman, technically, the legend there, or the myth, is that, several things, causing the bridge to collapse, which was the center point of that movie.
With Richard Gere. I forget the name of that.
The Mothman prophecy.
Was that what it was called?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh.
And the redhead from Will and Grace. This is
Yeah.
before she was famous. As a matter of fact, I've never been a Richard Gere. Again, not that he's done anything to offend me. Just how many Richard Gere movies do you watch?
Officer and a Gentleman, and that was...
Okay,
yeah.
well, it just seems to play kind of the same, and maybe that's my issue. It seems like it's the same character, but again, actually, it's a very good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Done better than a lot of the silly documentaries about Mothman. Right. But yeah, that's a tiny little town in Ohio. As soon as or is it West Virginia? It's in Ohio.
It's in West Virginia.
Before you,
before you cross over into Ohio.
Well, we crossed two places though. See, we crossed. We came down 36 from Chillicothe, as opposed to when we went up 33 route. Which, back to your first comment, is I have never seen roads more challenging than Ohio, West Virginia as well.
Right.
And I know it's weather, part of it.
You're paying the tolls, but obviously it didn't go for the roads. But yeah, maybe it was a bad winter.
Well, that's what, we were always used to hearing that living in Ohio all those years, that, when construction season, after winter, construction season would start. And in many cases, it was to repair the holes that the plows and the weather change and all that supposedly, exacerbate. And again, another reason not to live in Ohio is it's tremendously difficult and taxing to hit. Just nonstop potholes. I don't know how the truckers do it even, but it's a beautiful drive. That's
the pro of car travel, is that you get to see all the sights, and it is beautiful going through the mountains and seeing countryside. At least that's me. I like that. I like that view.
Well, no, and unfortunately, it's also, I find myself, this trip more than any others, and maybe it's age, and not that I had to go to the bathroom, but we were stopping like every hour, every 90 minutes, which, when you're younger, the thought is, let's just get it over with.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to go from point, nonstop. What's the famous line Dad always said? We're making good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we stopped, and we actually talked about this in another episode too, the roadside convenience stores.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, going on that trip, it's Sheets and Loves were the big ones.
Right.
Both quite fun.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of things to see. What was it? Love's has restaurants typically attached to them, whether it's McDonald's or
Right.
Arby's or something like that. But yeah, that's fun. And speaking of the convenience stores, one of the things that we had picked up a while ago to help pass the time in the car. So here's again another pro to help pass the time. And I do think back to the stopping off, and I had a feeling for myself other than trying to stay awake because again the whole idea of I could sleep in the car anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Soothe the baby, put him in the car, and go for a ride. But we had picked up, and it was a classic for us growing up, those little bingo cards.
The car bingo. Yep.
And the first ones we had picked up just recently, within the last 6 months, it was, I think, truly classic bingo, where they would have old, if you will, things from the 70s that were typical sights along the road.
Right.
Like a satellite dish.
Yeah.
Not that we don't have satellite dishes today, but it used to be in the
big, huge
you'd have
dishes,
that. If you were in the country, that's how you got television.
Right.
Antennas weren't necessarily cut or you get just
right.
the basic
now
networks.
It's dish.
But so what were the other challenging ones that?
A cat. Because there are lots of cats as you're driving on by that they're just free roaming the countryside or highway.
Well, and livestock, cow, right?
Well,
there's
around
cow,
here,
horse.
yeah, we see that.
Well,
yeah.
but again, for that to be on
the
a
S
silo.
curve. Well, even if there is an S curve, it doesn't say S curve anymore because we're illiterate. So it just that was hard to find.
So yeah, then we picked up a more modern, if you will, version of the game, of the bingo game, right? And it had a little bit more, I guess, topical, for the lack of.
Right. Well, at least they still had like dump truck and fire truck.
But they didn't have they didn't have the goofy ones like boy or girl.
Yeah.
Not that you don't necessarily see them, but
Yeah,
as you're
why they
driving
put it
through,
on.
what they should have, and I'm still amazed at the number of, quote, homeless that are begging at the end of a on-ramp or off-ramp.
Yeah, that should be a little.
It's a
slap.
tremendous amount that are.
You get one, you flip the panel.
And how are, for the most part,
Cybertruck,
they're
that'd
clean
be a fun
shaven.
one.
A lot of them are clean shaven. They don't look filthy, and you wonder how they got there with their world's below. I mean, you feel bad, but at the same time, it almost seems like it's some sort of organized method
and they have
to
shifts. Yeah.
And Ohio Columbus also, speaking of the homeless, was famous for. There's one homeless guy downtown that.
Oh yeah,
that
he sent his daughter to a.
Was
that Harvard?
What? Yes,
or Tulane?
It was. He earned $60,000 doing this. It was there again. It was. I don't know if it
and
was
this
necessarily
was back
60,000,
30 years
but
ago.
it was a tremendous number. He was doing this, and he put his kid through college by begging.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what I think of that.
Right.
Well, I know I'm thinking of that, but what the other games that you would play in the car to pass the time, things like
I Spy.
With 20 questions, yeah, that would be one. Or I Spy. What is I Spy?
I Spy
It's like
with
20
my
questions.
little eye something green, and you had to figure out what it was. Or you play the license plate.
The state game. So pick a state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See how many you could collect.
Color of a car. You pick that.
Oh, my favorite game was trying to breathe when Mom lit up a cigarette and only cracked the window an inch. That was a fun game.
Well, at least she cracked the window.
True.
And yeah, I'm just amazed that, I know we talked about this before, but the mentality of just when you're done with something, you threw it out the window.
Well, yeah,
With the
because there were ground crew that would pick up trash. Yeah, not anymore. But yeah, I think the hard time, traveling, with car travel, it takes a little longer. But nowadays, the fact that you have to be at the airport so many hours early and then you book a layover, you might as well drive because you'll get there sooner.
And of course, we just went through a government shutdown, so that I hate to not be current eventish in our conversations, so that they have more shelf life, if you will. And it's fair to say, I'm sure we'll have another government shutdown. And one of the first things that happens during a government shutdown is TSA.
Yeah.
And so we had that big controversy for the last 6 to 8 weeks during the shutdown. And technically, we're still in the shutdown, right? They just funded TSA to help with the whole airline
Travel
checking security thing. But
Well,
speaking of the security thing, one of the problems that we've run into, you in particular, is getting that ID with the little star on it.
My word.
So,
yes.
and we've been trying to chase this down. I'm not sure if anyone else has had this issue, but there are some, well, and maybe again it's interpretation of the particular DMV person that we have been.
I've carried around this document that it was the registration of birth from the state of New York, and it has the embossed seal, and it even says on it, "Keep this in a safe place. This is a federal document proving citizenship." So I take it to the DMV to get my little star, the real ID, and they told me, "Well, that's not a certificate of birth. That's a registration of birth."
Which caused.
Yeah, so I couldn't get it done. So,
and we're getting to the point that we have to have that particular ID. If for again, right now, I think they've turned it on in a lot of cases, like government institutions. If you don't have the star on your ID, you can't get in.
You can't get in.
Flying, it's more of a hassle.
Right.
But you bring your birth. Well, again, here's the irony. So what do? You bring a birth certificate, and if it's not accepted at the DMV, how the hell is it going to be accepted anywhere else?
I don't know. And this is what, whenever I had to give a birth certificate, this is what I gave, and that's what was recognized. But, these workers, they don't know what every state did and what they all look like, especially, 59 years ago. They don't have it all memorized
So,
of what everything looked like for each state.
Well, but I guess the wording on yours, though,
it didn't say, it said registration as opposed to certificate.
Right. And what I think made it exacerbated again, not confusion, but it's almost like they give you this thing and they go, no, that's not really it.
Yeah.
So all these years you've had this thing that, even though on the back of it says technically it technically qualifies as a
official
document
mm-hmm.
proving your birthright citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
However,
and it even said on there that that's what it's used for, but
they overcomplicate it by saying this copy of this document is a copy that's sitting at the courthouse in your Watertown, Watertown, New York, whatever county that is, and that's where the official copy is. Whereas I've never seen another birth certificate. As a matter of fact, the one from Pennsylvania just said official birth certificate.
Right.
And I don't know if there's something to that. And so looking into it a little bit, I guess the whole state of New York does that.
Yeah.
And the only way to get a real one is to go in person. Except unless you're in New York City, New York. They've got a lot of, there it's automated. You can do it online. Costs you like $250, which is absolutely insane. To go through that process, but
because I was waiting in line for 4 hours.
Well, I guess the moral of this story is what we still have yet to find out. If hopefully soon you'll be able to
use it
to use that.
Yeah.
But of course, that brings up all those classic DMV jokes that the lines are ridiculous,
mm-hmm.
etc. But and I know we talked about this in another episode more in depth. But one of the things that with travel. Don't you get excited, especially if it's a place that you've gone to before or you haven't visited one, but their food.
Yeah, I was so excited. Those of you that don't know about Cincinnati chili, specifically Skyline chili, oh my gosh, so good. But when you describe it to those that have never had it, that there's clove and
little chocolate
and a little chocolate in it, and it's served over spaghetti. And then you put cheese on top of it, and then Tabasco. You're like, and it's. I guess if you grew up with it, you love it and you miss it.
No, it's funny. So, yeah, that being a transplant, we only had access And it wasn't until, we asked about it for years, and then of course the Harris Teeter Kroger merger helped with the Skyline chili in a can. It's interesting.
In
you
a
bring
can, yeah.
in a can, not the frozen stuff. Frozen stuff is again completely different, even though it's the same thing. I don't know why it tastes different. The canned stuff is the closest. Wasn't there Star City chili, which was kind of the competitor to?
Yeah, it's another Cincinnati
But I don't think that exists anymore. But anyway, so you had
I've never tried it.
Well, and before I let you finish the story, but one of the things that we had done for years, because we like to make the 3-way or the 4-way. You put the pasta, the spaghetti down, the chili, and the cheese, right? So that's a 3-way. But only until maybe the last year or so did we decide, because this is, I think, one of the things that is so nice about it in person, going to a restaurant, Skyline Chili restaurant, is the mounds of cheese, but they're very light.
It's not little cheese; it's a lot of cheese, but it's the fine shred.
Well, and so my story was that only recently did we discover the other side of the grater, which we could do that, and I kid you not, it makes all the difference in the world. That was one of the observations and comments you both made when you came back from Skyline, the fact that this cheese is pillowy, super stacked super tall, but it looks like a lot of it. When you have the normal size cheese grate,
it's heavy.
It's heavier. It doesn't melt the same. But when it's this super light, stringy, it makes a difference. But unfortunately, I think with a lot of these things that your body gets either builds up immunity to or understands how to digest it. You all that went, I didn't get to go, but you had a bad experience with it.
Yeah, there was an evacuation of the back end,
Much like Sir Yacht experienced.
Yeah. But it was so good. I was so excited for that. And then to see Tim Hortons, to get the Timbits. I mean, it's silly because, they're donuts. But it's I don't know, the nostalgia of having Tim Hortons with the Timbits.
Anything in Ohio, there's, unlike down south where, it's a Walgreens, CVS on every corner. Or of course now either one or the other gone out of business. It's, 2 pharmacies on either opposite corner, a Starbucks and a Chick-fil-A at any typical intersection down south. Well, up north, and especially in Ohio, at least the observation is there's many other local options for said donut. Down here, love our Krispy Kreme. Shout out to Krispy Kreme. Fantastic donut, right?
Right.
Nothing better when they're warm. Oh, my God. Eating 3, it goes so quick. But,
and we found that the Hickory donuts, Donut Life, those are fantastic. But up north,
that's a mom and pop.
But up north, you find these small little bakeries.
Bakeries that are
Schneider's Bakery in Westerville. Oh, I miss
Buckeye Donuts, Jolly Pirate Donuts,
Honey Dip
Donuts. Many places on OSU, donut everywhere. But again, what's interesting, a lot of those are not what you get at the Krispy Kreme, which is that nice yeast.
Right.
All of the other ones are typically. And Tim, again, to your point, one of the things about Tim Hortons is, again, another outlet for a donut or a hole in this case. Other than that, I've mentioned food or mentioned pizza and being a pizza snob. There are so many great pizza places in Columbus, Ohio, that we got to. But you build it up, and part of it is you get it after the build up, and you go, it's not the way I remember it.
Right. We had Rubino's Pizza in Bexley. They've been around forever. Great pizza. And we had it, and we're like, it needs more cheese.
Well, and again, I don't want to sound blasphemous. To me, there are those pizzas that are good the next day, and this is, forgive me, that is not a good next day pizza.
No,
Rubino's.
because it's the very thin, almost like a cracker crust.
Pepperoni's fantastic, but it just
the cheese, yeah,
it's not a cold pizza. And there are a lot of great. And again, trust me, I'm not judging it just on the fact that it's cold pizza. But again, one of the best in Central Ohio. Tommy's, we didn't get a chance to try. We did get Donato's from a Donato's. One of the things that we can get Donato's down south at what is it? What's the burger place? It just
Red
Red
Robin.
Red Robin does Donatos, but they only do thin. As we were,
And it doesn't taste the same.
well, it's close,
It's
but it's
close.
not the same.
I forgot about the mariachi.
Well, they don't have the same. Yes, it's pepperoni cheese, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But we got the mariachi chicken, mariachi beef, which it's more spicy version. Where I was going with is the Donato's introduced. Only it's been around for maybe 20 years. Is the thicker crust.
That was good.
And
It
now
was
they have a
different
hand
sauce.
toss, and there's a hand toss. Well, you can get, yes, marinara is technically the sauce that goes, and you can get that thin crust sauce
that sauce.
on, but it's
thick.
not the default sauce.
Oh, okay. But
So-
I like the yeah.
But I hate to admit that I like the thicker crust Donatos. Always was a big fan
I
of
do.
that,
I like that sauce
and
better.
it was better. And what I was confused about is they had a thicker crust when I saw it online to order it, and a hand tossed. And I go, oh shit.
A hand
Was it
toss.
hand tossed or was it? But the key, and I could just by looking at the picture, I could tell one of the things with Donato's, it is edge to edge. You got toppings all the way to
Yes.
the edge. There's no crust.
Weren't they the 100 pepperonis?
Well, you can buy the 100, yeah. Or maybe that was the standard. I don't know. But yeah, they were famous for 100 pepperonis on a large. But with the thicker crust, also edge to edge, hand tossed has the traditional crust around it.
Yeah.
And so,
So, you have limited time while you're up there on vacation. You want to try new things, but you want to get the things that you always like. I mean, I'm curious to find out if people like to embrace local customs foods. Here in the States, it's easy enough to do.
our daughter found a Japanese, Chinese restaurant.
Japanese.
Bakery.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I've had my share of ethnic, quote, desserts.
Mm-hmm.
And again, maybe this is why America's so damn fat, but we love it more sugary, the sweetest it can be. And again, the idea or their traditional baked goods are just not that sweet.
No.
I
think she just likes
it's an
the
experience.
idea of it.
Well, no,
because we
it's
don't
cute.
have that down here. I mean, there are certain things that, you get more Eastern European foods up north. It's just there's. And I'm not gonna say culture, but just more.
It is.
More
There's-
ethnic foods up there.
Well, and again, Columbus is.
You got the pierogies up there. You have.
Well, it's more of a place that there are big ethnic
Groups.
and
Yeah.
and reasons to have them. There is OSU,
Mhm.
technology. A lot of it. As a matter of fact, I was asking, but I was sad to see a lot of the places that we had known for, hey, this was the AT&T building where they did a lot of research on Broad Street, boarded up. Apparently famous for a severed foot that was found there recently.
Oh yeah, behind the
least that-
Sonic. Yeah.
That was explained to us, but
So would you try different foods? I mean, down south, those when we first got down here, we didn't know about pimento cheese. Now we're just
we love it. Yeah,
absolutely
and their
love it.
idea of pimento cheese is not the same.
It's not the
Not
same.
even close.
Or we watch Josh and Mama, and they do this thing that it was a pineapple ring,
Okay,
Duke's
their food. Hold on,
mayonnaise,
but
and then you sprinkle cheddar cheese on it. Now I don't think I'd want to try that.
well, and so I guess to your example of things that we are exposed to, of course, down here and down North Carolina, South Carolina, Carolinas, that let's face it, barbecue is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that big thing is not just where you get your barbecue, Lexington, or the type of sauces you put on it. Is it Eastern or Western Carolina?
Yeah, vinegar versus tomato base.
Exactly.
And then don't
and
get me
mustard base,
started
right.
on the barbecue coleslaw.
I have no idea. I saw that for the first time. And again,
It's red slaw,
yeah.
not red cabbage. Sometimes it's just ketchup with the cabbage. And
I just don't get it. But which amazes me because regular they have what they call it the Carolina burger.
Oh yeah,
That is a
the
cheeseburger
Carolina dogs.
with
they do it with hot dogs too.
with regular mayo-based coleslaw.
They chili sauce, coleslaw.
Coleslaw. Mayo-based, not this red slaw
Right.
stuff. But so those are the best, I guess, part of the best, part of the worst. And I think one of the things that gets frustrating, Ohio did get their first Buc-ee's over by Dayton, Wilmington area, which is exciting. The probably one of the worst things is, and I guess it dawned on me because we don't have as many of them down here as they do up north, and that's rest areas. And the idea of going to the bathroom in a rest area versus a Love's or a,
the rest area
Sheets.
was clean.
It was okay, and the fact that we've stopped at other convenience stores and it's atrocious what you see in the bathrooms. But they're more rest stops as you go further north. And again, I don't know if that's a function of they've just been around longer or
don't know.
But and that stretch of, was it 23 between Chillicothe and BFE West Virginia is just, there's nothing along that route. But at least the road was a lot better than 33, especially around
that
Athens.
Was really bad.
And they were experimenting with this one road. I kid you not. We take walkie-talkies. We took 2 cars and I swear the road was actually making sounds, made it twice as loud.
Yeah.
It must have been some sort of experimental.
Was that the where we found the racks?
No. Oh no, that was that's coming back on 23. So that was going down High Street. And there is actually, we did see a racks.
Remember back in the day there was Arby's and there was racks. You would say I'd rather racks. Well, there's one left.
At least one that we saw.
Yeah.
Which we saw the billboard. And unfortunately, it was at 10 o'clock in the morning. They weren't open, and it wasn't my eating window.
So what? I'm
Other
curious
bad
to
parts.
find out.
I guess no. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say about when people do vacation, when it's not a once in a lifetime vacation. Are people? Would they prefer beach or prefer mountains, or would you prefer glaciers in Alaska, or do you want European travel? Where do you think most people like to go?
Or even your best, worst stories ever. Traveling with the parents. As a kid. We had I know it's cliche. I think we've talked about it before. You didn't have to wear seat belts.
Right.
And we had the one station wagon where it had the seat that was.
Oh, the rumble seat backwards?
Yeah, backwards, but it was also, I swear to God, part of the gas tank. Because every time I sat in it, I would get nauseous and just,
it was, fumes.
Oh my Lord, horrible.
Well, maybe that's why they did it, because the carbon monoxide.
It did make me pass out, but it was.
Get you to quiet down.
It was bad. But any of those kind of stories, and we've, like I said, we've taken our little break. And we're discovering more and more about how to do podcasts, where to put them. Any suggestions, we certainly would love it. We're still reaching out to others that we admire on the social media space to see if we can't get them on with us just to talk about how they got into social media and the whole bit. And so that's things to look forward to. And so, again, we're constantly coming up with new ideas and things to talk about. I think I'll expand and maybe come up with some rules for the human rabbit hole Kevin Bacon game.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I think there's potential there. Yeah.
Right, and I don't think people realize how good we could possibly be at this game.
Yes, I think. Yes, absolutely. So stay tuned for that. Until next time, this is Jim.
I'm Diane.
And you've been listening to another edition of The Works.